No official Bourbon Matters opening here. Does Dan usually do that?
Dan usually says something embarrassing enough to throw or cause some kind of stir. So
we're gonna miss him tonight.
Yeah. A podcast about bourbon and the ones who drink it. This is Bourbon Matters. Welcome to Bourbon Matters. I'm Jake.
And I am also Jake.
And we're down our third host for tonight. He'll be back next week.
So it'll be better than what it normally is.
Yeah. You finally get to throw some shade at Dan.
Yeah, right? You guys are in for a treat tonight.
Yeah. All this shit talking of Dan starts now.
Yeah.
So, tonight's going to be cool because we're actually doing the first ever preview of some Gold Eagle barrel pick releases. This will debut on Easter.
Okay.
So, they're coming out sometime the week of Easter, right?
Yeah, I believe if everything goes to plan with the delivery, we should be releasing these on Thursday next week.
Awesome.
Which is the 13th? Yep. Week from today. 13th.
Nice. So, keep an eye out for that.
Yeah. Well, if they're good, we haven't even tasted them yet.
Before we crack into those, there's a few news stories. So the first one, a Portland bar is going to be hosting a 60-year-old Japanese whiskey tasting for $7,000 per pour.
Wow.
It's a Suntory Yamazaki 55, which is distilled in the 60s. And they released 100 bottles in June 2020. 20 of those made it to the United States. I guess this bar in Portland must have got their hands on one. So I thought this was interesting because as a liquor store owner, would you ever think that $7,000 would be worth a pour of whiskey?
Absolutely not. It's hard to justify spending $7,000 on a bottle. It's hard to justify spending $7,000 on, or just even $1,000 on a bottle. I mean, I guess if you have money burning a hole in your pocket and you don't know what to do with it, and you really like whiskey, you might want to go for it and try it. But yeah, no, that's just mind blowing to me. There's just so many great whiskeys. We talk about this all the time in the under $100 range that it's kind of hard to justify splurging for some of these really expensive ones.
Right. And like, there doesn't seem to be anything particularly special beyond the fact that it's just old.
Yeah.
Which is
cool. So I'm assuming the 55 is 55 years old.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what that means.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I mean, like, I haven't tasted a whiskey that old, and if I did have unlimited income, that would be pretty cool treat to taste it and just see what it would taste like. But yeah, no, not for me right now.
Yeah,
maybe we'll get a bottle and I'll put it on the bar and I'll try like a tiny drop.
Well, the online prices are anywhere from about $1,100 to $950K. So,
oh wow. Well, I guess if 1,100 is the original retail.
Oh, sorry, no, 1,100 is the 18 year.
Oh, okay.
The 55 year is $950K.
Jeez, that's insane.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
Yeah, it seems like an auction house whiskey.
Yeah, for sure. Just a trophy if you don't have any, don't know what to do with your money.
Yeah. So next, Sagamore Spirit rolls out an Orange Crush Rye whiskey canned cocktail nationwide.
Ooh.
So the Orange Crush cocktail is rye whiskey, orange juice, lemon juice, and lime juice. With, of course, some other natural flavors.
Yeah, I'm looking right now to see if that is something that we can order.
Is typically that's made with a vodka. So they're using the Sagamore Spirit Rye in replacing the vodka. So that's kind of a neat concept. And we've been seeing, the like pre-made old fashions hitting the market in the past few years, especially from bigger brands. Like Bullet, I think, put out those the old fashioned and Manhattan pre-mades. There's a couple. I can't remember that Sazerac makes the one. I can't remember what the brand is called though.
They have a couple. They have a couple like tequila ones too.
Okay.
Yeah, RTDs are definitely becoming a big thing. We're starting to. I mean, that's kind of the issue right now. It's like it's going back to seltzers. When seltzers first came out, it's like we can't carry all of them. There's so many, and every company is getting into the seltzer game. And now we're seeing the same thing with the RTD game. Every single distillery wants to get into the RTD game, and I don't know. I think it's a good idea if you know how to do it right. If you get a good formula down and you get the quality down, and then you have good packaging and marketing to go with it, especially in the summertime, it's just convenient and easy. If you're out on a boat or whatever, just pop open a can and have a ready to go cocktail like that. But I can never see myself doing that just at home, just because I do like the art of making a cocktail.
Right.
And I know most enthusiasts would probably agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely, I guess, convenient for people that either don't want to keep a bunch of cocktail, ingredients around their house, or,
right.
Like you said, you're going to, go out on the boat or, hang out at a friend's house or whatever, and like don't want to lug bottles around, like the RTD cans and stuff are great. So yeah, this is one where I think I'd actually try it. It actually sounds
good.
Decent.
Yeah. Orange Crush, whiskey. I'm in.
Yeah. So yeah, it's coming in at 8%, which is, basically a beer.
Mm-hmm. A good beer.
Yeah, a good beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for that. Maybe coming to go legal.
We will try to get a hold of it. I'm having connectivity issues to their website, but we will try and get a hold of it.
And last one for today, Edrington. Yeah, Edrington buys majority stake in Wyoming whiskey. So Edrington is like premium Scotch brand based out of Scotland, obviously. Initially, they had made a deal in 2018 for 35% stake in Wyoming whiskey, and now they've upped it to 80%, which basically gives them controlling share of the company, of the distillery.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. Wyoming, I think, is primarily single malts, right?
They have bourbon.
Oh, they do? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a single malt. I could be wrong. But I'm pretty sure they were.
I'm confusing it with another one. Yeah, it is primarily bourbon.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure Nancy Fraley had a help in that. Dave Pickerel might have.
Oh, okay.
There's been some pretty big names behind Wyoming whiskey. I don't really know a whole lot about them, but we do from time to time. I'm pretty sure we have their small batch bourbon in stock right now, so we do work with them here and there. But yeah, it's just Wyoming. You don't really think of whiskey when you think of Wyoming, but
yeah,
every state's got to have a distillery, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just thought it was interesting. We've seen a lot of acquisitions lately. Wild Turkey buying Wilderness Trail is a big one. And there is there's another really big one recently.
Well, we're about to talk about it some more, but the MGP and Lux Row whole acquisition. There's so Campari owns Wild Turkey, which just bought Wilderness Trail. And it's interesting though to see a Scotch distillery purchase an American whiskey distillery.
Yeah.
Why are they trying to get a bigger footprint over here? Do they just see the boom that's happening with American whiskey and want to get in on that? I'd be interested to learn more and kind of analyze why they're doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. It's kind of a trend across all industries that things are kind of consolidating.
Right.
But
there's only so many brands and distilleries that, can stay afloat. And obviously there's a lot of money involved and these distilleries are making a lot of money. So, might as well increase your capacity and portfolio. A lot of these brands are tied to many, many other brands.
Right.
Going back to Lux Row, for example, again, they have 8 to 10 different whiskey brands. They make Everclear. They have, a couple tequila brands, some Irish creams. So a lot of bigger companies like that with a more diverse portfolio.
Yeah. The one I was thinking of was Heaven Hill bought Samson and Surrey. Which owns, like Widow Jane and
Few and Tequila Ocho.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good portfolio too. Yeah, that is interesting.
So
interesting
since,
for a
we
Kentucky
can
distillery
segue.
to expand out to Kentucky.
Yeah. Is where Few is in Chicago, right?
Few, is in Evanston.
Or Evanston, right? And then
very local to us.
Widow Jane is New York, I think.
New York. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So interesting. While we can segue, we might as well to these Lux Row barrel picks
in a little bit.
Tell us about these.
So we got 3 different Lux Row picks, 2 Ezra cash strength picks, and a Rebel cash strength pick. What's interesting about these is Lux Row was getting their whiskey from Heaven Hill. And when we went to do these picks, we were told that we are literally one of the last groups to be able to taste and pick from their Heaven Hill stock. So going forward after that week or the next week after, they were switching all barrel picks to Lux Row distillate, which, by the way, a little background on Lux Row. They started in 1958 in St. Louis, and they built
interesting.
Yeah, very interesting. They built a big portfolio, a bunch of bourbon brands, but then, as we mentioned, they also have the El Mayor tequila, Everclear, Ryan's Irish Cream, not Ryan's Irish Cream, Saint Bernardus Irish Cream, bunch of other miscellaneous brands as well. But they didn't build the distillery in Bardstown until 2018. So it's a very new distillery, especially for how big it is and how big the brand is. It's kind of surprising that they waited until this long to really go all in.
Yeah, that's a really long time to be sourcing whiskey.
Yeah, and especially building these different brands. I wish I knew more about what was going on between 1958 and 2018. But a lot of their whiskeys were always Kentucky whiskeys, and building and sourcing those brands without an active running distillery is pretty interesting. So they built the distillery in 2018. In 2021, January, so early 2021, MGP announced that they were going to pay $475 million in cash and stock to acquire Luxco. So MGP buys out Luxco. They kind of advertised it more of like a merger, and let's see. And then in 2022, so shortly after the merger, Luxco went under a $4 million expansion and allows them now to operate 24 hours a day and increase capacity by 75%.
Nice.
So that MGP money definitely helped them. When I was there picking these barrels, the whole place was under construction. It was actually kind of annoying because we couldn't go into their official tasting room, and we had to just go into an office space and taste out of plastic cups to pick these barrels. So I trust my palate, but it's a little different tasting out of plastic cups. But I think we did a good job. With
Were they
these.
at least communion cups?
No. They were logoed though, which was cool, I guess. But I remember the Rebel tasting like Cinnamon Toast Crunch. We all thought it was like very sweet and cinnamony. And I don't remember a whole lot about the Ezra's, except for I'm pretty sure I remember them being pretty different. So let's go ahead and dive into these. I'm going to start with the Rebel, and then I think I'll compare the two Ezra's together. And I haven't tasted these yet. These are just open today. We just got a case of each in, basically just to taste them and put together some tasting notes before the whole barrels arrive next week. So cheers.
Cheers. You're going to have to give the nosing notes because my nose is not working today.
No? I'm coming off a cold.
Allergies are just bad.
I think like some pear. Oh, yeah. Definitely a little bit of cinnamon, maybe some like earthiness, like some lemongrass.
Yeah, I'm getting like lemon and the cinnamon.
Yeah,
is what I can pick up.
There's nothing really too dominant. There's nothing that really stands out too much. Maybe a little bit of like red fruit.
I'm getting a little bit of like the oaky, leathery kind of smell too.
For sure. And I'm also curious, I don't know I would assume that they contract distill these with Heaven Hill. So I would assume it's their mash bill, it's their grains. That way when they transition to their Lux barrels, they're going to be similar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for the this is a wheat, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wheated bourbon.
Wheated bourbon.
So yeah, for a wheated bourbon, which I mean it is 120 proof. So your flavor profile is pretty substantial, which I prefer in a wheated bourbon. I feel like a lot of times when they're proof down, it loses a lot of its character. And a lot of the flavor profiles just kind of get overtaken by the smoothness of the wheat.
It tastes very light for 120 proof.
Yeah. It does have the notes that are in it though are pretty deep.
Yeah, they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're definitely on the lighter side of like the flavor spectrum. And like I kind of get that cinnamon toast crunch type flavor going on.
Yeah,
it's like the cream and like the cinnamon.
The sugar too. Like there's some sweetness there.
Yeah.
Most of the spice kind of kicks in on the finish and lingers for a little while. And then I definitely get like some maybe like dried fruits, like dried berries.
Yeah.
But the finish is nice because that's like all Cinnamon Toast Crunch on the back end.
Yeah.
And all of our previous picks of Rebel were always 113 proof. I definitely think I like this 120 proof a little bit better. It's got a little more complexity to it.
So
Now,
did they adjust the proof, or is this basically where it came out of the barrel at?
They don't say. I mean,
Okay.
I would assume that it's adjusted because there's no way that these are all 120
Perfectly
proof
120.
and lined up. Yeah. So I would say, I mean, they say cask strength on the bottle, which I feel could be a little deceiving, for especially if they are adding a little water, which I'm sure they are. There's no way these all line up at 120 proof, but
Yeah.
maybe 120 entry proof, and the proof rose, and then they added some bottles or some water to it, because that's probably how they get away with the cask strength.
Yeah.
Now, I did add a little water to this just to see how it opens up. I don't usually like to add water, but whenever we get a new barrel pick in, I definitely do that just to see how much the flavor changes. A lot of the nose, the aromas definitely increase with a little bit of water. I'm getting a lot of like cherry and
Yeah. Much more
berry notes,
like fruity kind of notes now.
Yeah. I still think I like it better at cask strength without the water, but that's good with a little drop of water. It's completely different.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
the spice almost goes away.
Yeah, it shakes it up a lot. Definitely makes it a lot brighter.
Oh yeah, yeah, more fruity. The
Interesting.
spice kind of fades, comes back on the back end. I actually get more like wood sugars at the full proof. I think it's a little less sweet. It's maybe a little dry. Yeah, I would recommend trying it both ways, but ultimately, I definitely prefer without the water.
Yeah. Well, with the weather heating up, this is a decent spring whiskey.
It is. Throw this over like a big cube and just kind of let it open up slowly. I got a good patio sipper. All right. So we picked one Rebel and two Ezra, mainly because I think the year prior we didn't do an Ezra pick. We just did a Rebel pick, which that Rebel pick was 113 proof, and it lost by one vote to Weller Full Proof in one of our blind tastings.
Oh, okay.
And you can fact check that, Dan, if you're listening. All right, so Ezra barrels about the same age as the Rebel, which I emailed the distillery to get official ages, but they're right around 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
They were the barrels were filled in like August of 2017 for the Rebel, September 2017 for the first Ezra, and then 11 November of 2017 for the second Ezra. And I did write those dates on your samples that I gave you.
Yeah, I got them.
That way you know which is which. Yeah.
Which one do you want to start with?
I'm going to kind of do these side by side, but I'm going to start with the September one.
Okay.
I usually always like to start with I work my way up in the date, and that way I can remember if I misplace them.
Yeah.
Youngest to oldest, or sorry, that would be vice versa. But
This one has an interesting nose.
the first one,
Yeah, the September.
yeah,
It's like I can't place exactly.
The November one is a little more muted. I would definitely prefer the September on the nose. But I'm getting some spice. I'm getting like maybe some milk chocolate. Definitely some char.
Yeah,
That's a big note on the Ezra's. And caramel, kind of traditional bourbon on these on the nose.
yeah. The September is almost like, would you like burn caramel a little bit?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe even like caramel corn.
Yeah, like candy corn, caramel corn.
Yeah.
I actually think the nose on the November is opening up a little bit. Started to improve since it's got some air and has been sitting out in my glass. But before even tasting, I can tell you that this is one of the best values out there in Kentucky bourbon. 120 proof, high rye bourbon, and $50.
Yeah, that's pretty good
Yeah, these should all be $49.99 on the shelf, I believe.
for a barrel pick. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
too.
for a barrel pick of Kentucky bourbon, probably just under 6 years on these. I could be mistaken, but when we release these, hopefully I'll have the exact dates in our social media posts. All right, I'm going to taste.
The September is very very mild for 120 proof.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say the same thing. It tastes like 100 proof.
Yeah.
And this is my second sip of the day after that Rebel.
Yeah. This is like it's definitely got some like pretty typical bourbon notes on the palate, and then on the finish all that rye spice kind of floods in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just like the Rebel, more of the spice comes in on the back. And out front, it's just kind of like caramel, oak, and then all that spice kicks in on the back end. Wow, that's good.
As if you like kind of hang out and like chew on it a little bit, it gets kind of sweet, and then the finish is just all that like rye spice.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
And it lingers.
Yeah. Yeah,
This
it's
one,
decently long.
This
finish.
one is. Yeah, at first it kind of goes away a little bit, but then it comes back and just hangs out. I mean, this is a minute and a half after my last sip, and I'm still tasting it as if it were just poured into my mouth.
Yeah, the Rebel had a really long finish too.
Yeah, I think this one is even longer.
Yeah, I like this one. This one's good.
All right, let's see. I'm going to dive into the November Ezra. They're very different. This one's like, almost tastes like it's like a lighter char. It still drinks well under 120 proof, but I don't get as deep of like caramel and sweet flavors.
Yeah, that
I
one's
get kind
might
more
even
like
be smoother
vanilla.
than the other one.
of, yeah. I get more like vanilla, like custard.
Yeah, yeah, it's
just
much
like
more.
butter.
Yeah, like definitely like those kind of like creamier kind of flavors.
Yeah, creamy butter, custard. That's definitely
It's not as sweet up front.
right.
This one,
And
I
it's
feel like the sweetness almost comes on the finish with this one
Yeah.
a little bit.
Less spice too. I'm getting. And
Yeah.
it's kind of just more balanced throughout. Whereas the September one, all the spice kicks in on the finish. This one's just kind of more mellow on the spice, but it just lingers throughout the whole pour. And again, a very long finish.
It's definitely there, but it's not as prevalent as the other one.
Mm-hmm. My gosh, this tastes like 95 to 100 proof.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable how smooth this is.
Mm-hmm.
This is dangerous. The third one of the day, but it's I mean, yeah, there's like no real ethanol note at all in this. Even on the nose, it was you said it was pretty subdued compared to the September.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much ethanol to this one at all, which is
I get surprising. A little more on the November one than I do on the September one, but no, this is really good. And again, for $50, there's not many other bourbons out there that can compete with this.
Yeah.
And this, by the way, this is good. I was just going to say, by the way, I think we're going to do one Rebel pick and one Ezra pick this year. But they're both going to be Adventure Club. So we never know with those. If we might end up getting 6 bottles. We might end up getting half the barrel. They kind of get first dibs when we do picks with them. So if you do like these, if you do, like these brands, I would definitely jump on these because I don't really see these hanging around for too long.
Yeah, these are both good. I'd recommend. Well, all three of them I'd recommend. And they're all kind of different in flavor profile. If you're a weeded bourbon person, this Rebel pick is absolutely a good purchase. And the September one has all that rye spice. So if you're like a high rye bourbon kind of person, this is like the quintessential high rye bourbon.
It is.
And the November is nice, really more well balanced.
Yeah, just kind of more like easy street, but also high proof and still has good flavor. The November, I think, for me personally, I like the September one a little bit better. I like that rye spice that kicks in, and I love how it's very mellow on the first sip, and then just boom, hits you all at once. But I really enjoy this, the November one too, just for like the creaminess and how soft it is. Yeah,
I would predict that Dan would probably pick the Rebel.
You think so?
He loves his weeded bourbons.
Yeah.
I'm with you on the September because I love a good rye kick in a bourbon.
Yeah, especially like the journey of the pour changing throughout the sip.
Yeah, I mean this one
really look for
is particularly changes throughout the entire like drinking experience, which is pretty cool.
Right. All right, I'm going to go back to the Rebel now after tasting these two.
Yeah, that rice spice on the September is really excellent.
Yeah, it's special. I think the high rye on the Ezra kind of hides the cinnamon aspect on the Rebel a little bit, but
yeah,
after a couple sips going back to it, it's kind of kicking back in. Maybe it's because I'm on my third or fourth taste now, but this Rebel also tastes like 100 proof, 110 proof at most.
You won't. You don't know what the exact mash bills of any of these are, right?
No, I don't. I don't know for sure. I think they do say, but I don't know them right now off the top of my head. I sent them an email today and gave them like the barrel IDs, and they're usually pretty good about getting back to me with all the information that they can give. So hopefully I'll get all that before we post it and release it officially to the public. You looking it up right now?
Yeah, so Rebel is 68% corn, 20% wheat, 12% malted barley. Right. Which is surprising because for the amount of spice that's in the Rebel, you'd think there'd be some rye in there somewhere.
Yeah, or like more wheat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 20%'s not crazy.
No, it's about average, but just because there is so much spice on this one, I would almost think that it's a higher wheat, because sometimes with like wheat whiskeys, you just get a ton of spice. It can really mess with you and make you think you're drinking a rye. But yeah, this one, maybe it's I don't know. Yeah, it's a unique mash bill. It's like the perfect amount of malt. I like a little bit of malt. I don't like the 5% malts.
Yeah, I kind of tend to gravitate towards the
except for 95.5 MGP.
Mm-hmm. I love the 95.5 MGP. It's like the best ever.
Mm-hmm. Which, by the way, so the old Ezra 7-year barrel strength rye is remarkable.
Really?
That is a special pour. Yeah.
Well, didn't you pour it at a blind recently?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, because it was excellent.
It took down the hard truth, which is hard to talk about, because we love that hard truth.
Yeah.
But they're completely different, because that hard truth just is so sweet and it tastes like vanilla icing. And that old Ezra rye is like just caramel and traditional bourbon notes. Like, it just tastes like a spicy, sweet bourbon, but it's 95.5 MGP rye. Yeah. Which is cool, because we're kind of, after the acquisition, when MGP merged with Lux Row, we've kind of been waiting to see what they were going to do with that, if they're going to start putting some MGP into Lux Row products. And this one is distilled in Indiana. So obviously that's some MGP rye in that bottle. And it's ridiculously good. We get so much good feedback on it at the bar. I think we kind of like snagged all the cases that the distributor had in the warehouse, and we weren't really supposed to get as much as we got. So we still have a couple bottles, but we went through like 35 cases of that rye.
Jeez.
And hopefully, knowing how big MGP is, hopefully that's not going to be something that's allocated. Like, they should have enough whiskey to keep that on the shelf.
Especially, it's only well, I say only a 7-year, but for MGP, that's pretty
right.
young.
That's a good, but that's a good age right now where we stand for MGP, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's some older rye blended in there, just from how good that bottle is. And by the way, for the record, I'm not really a fan of the Ezra 7-year bourbon.
Okay, I haven't tried it yet, but.
So ever since it could be different now if they are using MGP bourbon, but ever since the price jumped on that, it was like $60, and now it's up to $80. I just don't think it's worth it, and we actually, it lost to one of our Jepson's barrel picks in a blind tasting, and the Jepson's bottle's half the price. So, which we should get Tyrus on here from Jepson's for one of these episodes.
That would be fun.
I'm sure he would love to jump on here. But
that was one in particular that I was extremely skeptical of.
Yeah.
Until
how can you not be?
Yeah.
The label looks like Malort. I mean, we have people that buy the bottles thinking they're buying Malort and then realize, oh wait, this is a bourbon.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you poured it at a blind or as a bonus pour.
One of the Jepsons.
Yeah, and I was like blown away at how good it was.
Yeah. I think
so
I
ended
did
up buying all four of the first ones that you put out.
I mean, they're so good. Like, you can get 4 bottles for $120, and no, sorry, $160 because they're $40 each. But you can get 4 bottles for $160, and
which like $40 for a cast strength store pick is like unreal.
They're just under 6-year MGP barrel proof bottles, and like I said, the one that I picked because it had the most spice in my eyes, and I put it up against the Ezra. It destroyed it.
Yeah.
So,
are they going to distill their own?
By the cover. They are not.
Okay, it's only sourced.
Yeah, they're only going to source. And they said they have no plans to distill their own.
Okay.
Which I agree with. It's kind of like the Smoke Wagon thing. Like,
yeah.
You know, he actually bought a still and brought some people in to advise him on how to distill. And they told him, why would you try and distill whiskey? Like, everyone loves your MGP bourbon.
Yeah.
Just keep going with that. Because who knows? In 3-4 years, you might spend all this money distilling and laying down barrels, and it might taste awful. It might taste completely different, and then you're stuck.
Right. Which
So
the Smoke Wagon malted rye is unreal. It's so good.
You love it. I know you love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It didn't do well in our blind tasting for Bourbon Matters last year, but I mean,
I think I was the only one that picked it.
I think you were. What was it up against?
Was it the
I was
reunion?
just talking about this to someone. Yeah, it was the reunion.
Which was also
very,
very good.
Yeah. But those are very different too.
Right. Yeah.
The malted rye if you like a floral rye, then go after that malted rye. If you like a sweeter, more caramel, oakier rye, go for that reunion but they're both very good. They're both just very different.
Yeah, most of the people there, I think, were much more in the bourbon category than
so they like the sweeter rye.
Yeah, I'm like, give me all that rye, like floral and spice, because that's what I live for. Yeah. So the Ezra Brooks is 78% corn, 12% rye, and 10% barley. So again, a higher barley content, which 12% rye is not anything crazy.
No, not as high rye as I thought. I just always get a lot of spice on the Ezra stuff.
Yeah.
So maybe it's
it
just
definitely
the combo,
shines through well.
Yeah, just the combo of their mash bill with the barrels and char that they're using. But yeah, it's
I think sometimes it seems like that the higher barley content can bring out some of those rye spice notes a little bit. So I want to say that the Old Elk kind of does that as well a little bit
on the straight bourbon.
Yeah. Although it's like, I wish I could try a cast strength version of their straight bourbon, because I feel like it would really shine some of those notes. As it's like 86 proof, right?
Yeah, it's pretty low.
Yeah,
I think it's around like 90, 92, but it's very low.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
definitely under 92.
Especially because the rest of their lineup is like over 100 in most cases.
Yeah, they don't really have anything too high proof unless it's a barrel pick. Which we actually have a sour mash barrel pick coming from Old Elk, which is 8-year, and it is the first sour mash Old Elk barrel pick.
Oh, nice!
And that should be landing very soon, like within the next 2-3 weeks.
I'm a fan of their sour mash. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's this one is extremely fruity. It was so far off profile from all the other samples that we received that we just picked it just they were all good, but we just picked this one just because how different it was from all the other samples. And we had 8 samples.
Oh wow, that's
some,
a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. Some 7-year, some 8-year, and this one was just like off the charts, fruity and unique that we just felt like we had to snag it. We couldn't see it go anywhere else. So
Yeah.
that's going to be fun to release. But I'm going back to these Ezras, and man, this September Ezra is special.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's really good. And even the November one's growing on me a little bit.
Yeah, they both kind of have their place. Mm-hmm. Where like if I'm feeling bold, the September one with its really good spice is kind of like my like a more like weekend vibe.
Yeah.
And the November is more of like if I'm like tired after work and like I want a little
think
pour.
about it. I just want a little taste of some high proof that doesn't taste at that high proof. I bet you these would also be really good in a cocktail too.
Yeah.
Manhattan, old fashioned. They already have like a little bit of kind of citrusy orange vibe. They have a little fruitiness. They have a little chocolate. And they're $50 and 120 proof. So you don't have to feel bad about mixing it.
Yeah. I think we actually mentioned this a couple episodes ago, but I actually prefer. Oh yeah, well we did a cocktail episode, so
yeah,
we did mention this.
We did.
Yeah,
some of these episodes just kind of blur together.
Yeah, yeah. I actually prefer to use like over 100 proof whiskey in my cocktails
for sure.
Because
absolutely.
Even if you're gonna like shake over ice before pouring, it helps keep the flavor profile intact, and you don't end up with just like watered down garbage,
Right.
Which like sometimes, not everybody has access to like a big cube of ice and stuff. So if you're going to try and make a
you should.
bold cocktail, you should try and get an ice cube tray.
Just get a big ice mold or something, because even if it's not cleared, if it doesn't look good, it doesn't matter. Like it's still better than cubed ice or crushed ice in there.
But I drank a Manhattan on that episode, and I like to shake it over ice because I want it cold if it's a cocktail. So like using that high proof whiskey, you're gonna instantly add water when you shake over ice. So it probably comes out of the cocktail shaker at like, high 90s in proof, which is like a great cocktail proof. Especially if it's something that's really alcohol heavy, like a Manhattan, which is like only, alcohol
and ice.
So,
yeah. And I mean, like when I'm drinking my cocktails too, I kind of compare it to the journey of drinking a good pour of whiskey. Like your first sip with the cocktail, I think you should kind of be taken back a little bit. Like, ooh, this is strong. It's got some good flavors going on. And then as the ice slowly melts, it kind of just like mellows out and opens up. And that's when the cocktail gets really good. Maybe because it's the ice, maybe it's because I've already had a couple sips. I don't know, but that's the beauty of the cocktail, is just kind of letting the ice open up all the components and meshing them together and changing a little bit as you sip it. That's my biggest complaint when I go out and order a cocktail, is it just already tastes like it's just watered down, and I'm just drinking, some whiskey and sugar juice.
Yeah. So this might be controversial. Like my preferred whiskey base for an old fashioned is actually rye.
Okay.
I don't know what your feeling is on that.
That's perfectly fine. I've had some great rye old fashions. My preference would be like a sweeter bourbon.
Okay.
So like Knob Creek single barrel is my favorite. It's got heavy oak. It's got heavy caramel. You get kind of like that nuttiness in there, and it's got a little bit of chocolate vibe. But yeah, I mean, like I've had plenty of great old fashions made with rye whiskey.
Yeah, as I made a Hard Truth old fashioned that was like unreal.
What'd you put in it?
So I actually did a couple different ones. My wife and I had some friends over, so I made us 6 different old fashions.
If you remember what was in it.
I wrote them all down.
What was in the
'cause
favorite?
I didn't want to forget. So I think the favorite was I did a Woodford Double Oak
Okay.
old fashioned, but I made my own pumpkin spice simple syrup.
Ooh. I
And
hope
like,
this was around Halloween time.
yeah, it was.
All right, good.
I'm not that willy nilly about my pumpkin spice. That one was excellent. And like the Double Oak has such like deep, like
Oh, it's so
chocolatey
sweet
kind of
already.
flavors.
It's almost
and-
like ready to go.
yeah. So like the pumpkin spice, flavors really complemented that well. But the Hard Truth, I did lemon bitters and a mint simple syrup.
Ooh.
That came out excellent.
It already has kind of like a little bit of a minty vibe.
Yeah. So I wanted to kind of boost the mintiness and because the Hard Truth has a little bit of that like citrus note too. So I thought that would be a really good pairing.
Definitely.
But one that I would recommend for everybody to try is if you're really looking for like a dessert old fashioned, Jack Bonded with I made my own vanilla simple syrup. And then just regular bitters. Or actually,
Orange bitters or
I actually used chocolate bitters in that. And
Yeah,
it was
okay.
like an ice cream sundae. It was unbelievable.
I bet. I love so I always use maple syrup in my old fashions, like pure real maple syrup. I think that pairs well with like Knob Creek and sweeter bourbons. But yeah, like you can't beat a homemade simple syrup, homemade Demerara.
Yeah, it's so easy. Like
Yeah,
it's like
And
10
and
minutes
for sure
to make
worth
simple
it.
syrup.
Like anytime I have a fake simple syrup or pre-bottled simple syrup, old fashioned, you can tell right off the bat, and it just doesn't compare to.
Yeah, for a long time I was actually using sugar cubes, but I felt like I had to make like 2 or 3 before the sugar actually like dissolved enough that it was like enjoyable.
Yeah.
So like, so yeah, I kind of got away from that and started using like real sugar simple syrup, like pure sugar simple syrup.
Yeah,
And it definitely makes a difference.
for sure.
Like you can buy like maple sugar, like granulated maple sugar on Amazon. And like that makes unbelievably good simple syrup.
That does sound good. I'm gonna have to start making my own, experimenting with different simple
Yeah,
syrups.
I just
and
bought like
Demerara and
condiment
whatnot.
bottles and just
for
made a
that.
bunch of different simple syrups.
Nice.
I mean, they're good for like at least 6 months at a time. If you refrigerate them, I think it's even
Yeah,
longer.
keep them refrigerated. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. This September, Ezra, if you're listening to this, be ready on Thursday or Friday next week to jump on the September Ezra. This is good,
Yeah, Dan,
And
put
the
in your
Rebel.
order now.
right? But yeah, I don't know. Final thoughts on the 3, the Rebel,
Yeah.
the Ezra.
I mean, I think all 3 of these are worth picking up. If I had to narrow it down to one, I'd pick that November Ezra. Or sorry, the September Ezra. But the November is excellent, and the Rebel's also really good. Again, like weeded people that like really like weeded whiskeys, the Rebel is like a no brainer.
Right.
So yeah, I'd highly recommend all three of these.
I think we'll do like a package deal. So like you get a little discount if you buy one of each.
Yeah. Okay.
It's for sure. It's definitely fun to compare these three, especially the two Ezras, and just to see like how different they can be. And hopefully by release time, we'll figure out a little more information on like where these barrels were stored, what rickhouses. But yeah, I'm just reading the back right now, and it's interesting how they say distilled and aged in Kentucky, but bottled for Lux Row distillers. So you won't see that anymore because the new barrel picks that will come out are all going to be distilled by Lux Row. Which also another point to bring up is this pick was a year ago. It was like April or March of 2022, and the barrels landed at the distributor in December. And we actually just had so many barrels coming in at once. We kind of asked them if we could wait until January to take these in, and we kind of just forgot about them. The distributor forgot about them. And then a couple weeks ago, they were like, "Oh wait, we still have these 3 barrels for you." And I was like, "Oh yeah, let's get those in here as soon as we can." So I feel pretty confident saying you're not going to really find any Heaven Hill distilled single barrels of Ezra or Rebel unless it was something that's just been on the shelf for a year plus. But yeah, these are special, and I would for sure recommend grabbing one and making sure you save some for when we do another pick a year from now of these brands, and to be able to compare the Heaven Hill versus the Lux Row. Because I bet you they'll taste similar, but there's going to be some noticeable differences.
Yeah, and I've actually seen a lot of people recommending that if you can't find that 7-year old Ezra, that these store pick cast strengths
I think these
are
blow
like
away.
Excellent alternatives. Which like
I would
rule
I
of
was just gonna
thumb,
say,
I would just say store picks are better than most normal off the shelf things anyway. So
right.
if you have the opportunity, I'd recommend store picks over, whatever special release.
Yeah, $30 cheaper a bottle, higher proof, and a single barrel versus a blend. I think these Ezras are a no-brainer when you compare it to their 7-year cask strength.
Yeah. I haven't had that one yet.
Whatever. It's 114 proof. They call it full proof.
Yeah. I mean, I trust your judgment on that. So
It lost to our Jepsons. So if you really want to try it, you already have the Jepsons. So just taste that and just think, all right, it's a little worse than this.
Do you remember which Jepsons it was?
It was 2. It was number 2. Because that's my favorite. I think the Jepsons.
Iron Man 2, right?
Iron Man, yeah. The Jepsons 2 and 3 are very similar. They're more spice driven, and then the 1 and 4 are more like mellow, and they almost taste like they could be Kentucky whiskey just because of how like nutty and pulling back on the spice that they have. But two's probably my favorite. But the best thing about those barrels is everyone I talk to has a different favorite. So it's kind of personal preference. But if I were to pick, I would pick number 2.
I am upset that I missed the orange curacao one.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that one like went like kind of sneaky fast. Like I think people didn't expect that one to sell quickly, and then I think we sold like a quarter of the barrel on the initial release, and then within a month the whole thing was gone. And I'm not kidding, I had people buying cases of that.
Really?
Yeah. I've got a customer that bought a couple cases, and good for them, because it's you can't get that anymore. That's the only orange curacao barrel that they've ever done.
Yeah, because when I bought the the ones that I've got, you still had a couple bottles of the orange curacao, and I was like, oh, I'll come back later and get that one if I, feel like it. And they were gone the next time I came in.
Yeah.
And I was like, man. And like several people that I talked to at the tastings of the master classes were like, oh my God, it's so good. And I was like, shit.
Yeah. Well, next time you're in, I'll give you a taste. We have it at the bar.
Nice.
I think we accidentally opened like 2 or 3 bottles at one time. Like, didn't realize we already had one opened another one, and then opened another one for a tasting. So like we're stocked at the bar. We've got open bottles,
Nice.
But yeah, unfortunately no bottles left for resale.
Yeah. I've heard great things about it. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, let's wrap this up.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if we keep going, we're gonna have to split this into 2 again. So this is like 1 hour is like perfect for me because it's a little over my commute to the store now, so I can get an episode in on the way there. But yeah, this is good. Yeah.
All right. You want to hit up the Gold Eagle socials?
Yeah, so hit us up, goldeaglewine.com. You can see our inventory, shop for pickup, delivery within 16 miles, and soon shipping to select states. Find us on Instagram at Gold Eagle Wine. Find us on Facebook at Gold Eagle Spirits. We post every day with a picture of our new shipments, so that's how you keep up to date with what we have going on. And yeah, obviously Bourbon Matters. Take it over, Jake.
Yeah, and get the app.
The Gold Eagle app?
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's free.
Yeah.
No reason not to have it. And you can easily go in there and beat everyone else who's trying to get in and order some of our more limited releases.
Yeah, and tickets to the master classes and everything.
Ooh, yeah.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, if this is dropping on Easter, I think we have like 4 or 5 tickets left for the Stellum Masterclass.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
gonna be really good.
That'll be a good one.
Yeah, we're gonna try 6 different Stellum Black products.
Oh,
which are
wow.
all
Nice.
$100 bottles. And everyone's gonna get like a Stellum swag bag and Glencairn. And then the week after, we have Fox and Odin, which
Yep.
everyone is going to have the opportunity to purchase their double oak bourbon, which is
Nice.
very limited, and every time we get it, sells out right away. And then we're also going to be the first to taste their rye, the Fox and Odin rye.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
that should be
they're-
interesting.
They've been like blowing up the product offering that they've got recently.
Yeah.
Well, it's like their single malt came out.
Yeah.
Now a rye and then a double oak. And they're putting out several batches a year. Like it
Yeah.
pretty neat.
Well, it's the same barrels and same stock of whiskey that Joseph Magnus uses, and it's the same blender that's creating Fox and Odin. Nancy Fraley's behind it all, and I think they're just trying to build up different names, different brands in the whiskey industry, while they have access to these barrels. And it's definitely a brand to keep an eye on. And we're also going to be tasting some Coppercraft stuff too, which I think is highly underrated.
Yeah.
Their offerings are all $50 or under, and they're phenomenal MGP blends.
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed their rye at the last master class. It was pretty good. So yeah, keep an eye out for those. There's blind tastings and the normal masterclass events. So yeah, check those out. They're a blast every single time. So
cool. Appreciate that.
But then you can check out Bourbon Matters at bourbonmatters.com, or sorry, bourbonmatterspodcast.com. Email us at Bourbon Matters if you want to see us talk about something in particular, or just tell us that you hate the show. Anything. You can find us on Instagram at Bourbon Matters, Facebook as well. You can listen to us anywhere. Starting last week with the Wilson Torres interview, which I highly recommend. that was a blast. Thanks again to Wilson for checking that out because it was so much fun. A lot of information about Castle and Key. But from now on, Spotify will be video episodes as well as YouTube. All other platforms will be audio only. So if you really want to watch videos, but you don't want to watch YouTube because it makes you buy that like YouTube music thing, watch us on Spotify.
Cool.
All right. That's all we got this week.
Yeah. Thanks for listening to us.
Yep.
Cheers. All 100 of you. Cheers.